kill it. I was meant to win. I am down and willing, so I will find a way. It took a minute, now it didn't happen right away. When it get hot in the kitchen, you decide to stay. That's how it winners made. Stick a fork in the hater on my dinner plate. I walk into the fire like it's just a bit of flame. I switch my style up, watch the money pile up. I'ma get rich with life.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Clydesdale Media's Semifinalist series. This is our second so far. Yesterday, we interviewed Scott Tetlow. If you didn't see that, go check that out. It's on YouTube now. And today, we're starting our I think it's Canada Day here at Clydesdale Media. Our first Canadian of three today, Emily Rolfe. What's going on, Emily?
Hello.
Yeah. We've been accused of being Canadian bias, and we're really proving it today.
Who isn't? We're so nice.
So I'm so excited to have you on the show because last year it was like we talked every week. We followed you through the whole season, got to know you really well. And this year I haven't got to talk to you at all.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's kind of flown by though. You have to admit, like
it is. It almost feels compressed, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like quarterfinals are done and semifinals are almost here.
Yeah, I think last year quarters were right after the open, and then there was a long till semis, and now it's like the opposite. We had a few lull weeks there, and then quarters and go.
So there's a lot of noise around quarterfinals this year.
Yeah.
Were you impacted by any of that, like emotionally, mentally, anything like that, just trying to get through the week? Or did you just ignore it and figured you'd come out on the other side?
A little bit of both. I think, like everyone, I kind of naively just put in my scores and was like, okay, sweet, done. And then when all the penalties started rolling out, it was like, ooh. And like everyone knows, I redid that first workout 3 times because I had video issues. So the benefit of that was I watched my first video until it cut out. And I just picked out a couple of tweaks and was like, some of those step ups, like if they want to be really strict, they could be. And so really it was a blessing that I redid it because who knows, I could have been on the other side of that. So really lucky there. It was painful at the time, but I'm lucky.
And so I kind of want to dive into that a little bit. You know, Carolyn Prevost is a part of our Thursday night show now. She said she did that workout, looked at it and said, if they want to be strict, they could no rep me here. And she redid it as well. And thank goodness, because now you're both are sitting in the top 10 going into semifinals. Do you review all your videos, or was it just because you had the clock issue?
Yeah, well, from now on I will. But no, usually I don't. So usually, which is crazy now that I think about it, because so much can go wrong. But no, usually I just upload it, copy the link to my notes, and submit it when, I check to make sure it plays, but I've never watched it fully through, which is a lesson that now I will for sure.
Do you think that changes across the board for all athletes now?
I think a little bit, for sure. And I think it was hard because maybe the angles at what people videoed at were different, and because there was no guidelines there. So I think that made it tough for people. It's just unfortunate situation, but because again, if you're competing live, your judge tells you once, you fix it, you missed the 1 rep. Like you didn't fly through the workout and then get told after, which I feel for the athletes that happened to. It sucks.
So I've made an argument that probably doesn't put me on the popular side of the athletes. I don't know, but I've seen a lot of really good athletes not get moved forward because of crap videos.
Yeah.
And people who do not meet the standards, then they get to semifinals or the next live competition, and they're incapable of doing the work that's required at that level.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good step if we're going to go in this direction consistently.
Yeah.
And across the board, like I think they should have had quarters right after the open to give more time for video review to make sure all the videos got that review.
Yeah. Because yeah, people are complaining that, oh, like they didn't even look at 3 and 4, or some people did, but it's like, I think they say they're only going to look at one. I mean, they obviously have to look at more for the top 40, but basically, if you have a test and there's 4 tests and you don't know which one they're going to review, you best do well on all 4 because you don't know. And I think that's what they kind of go for, but I don't know.
Yeah. I wish we could give them more time or more staff to be able to do it, because it seems silly. It's like drug testing 1 or 2 people on a team, and you're good to go if 1 or 2 pass.
Yeah.
You know, that seems to happen a lot with CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
So, looking at your placings, they've improved year over year over year.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean to you when everybody around you is improving and you're improving at a level where the leaderboard is showing it year after year?
Yeah, it's very encouraging for sure. That's kind of what keeps me going. Like, I just keep getting better and better, which is, yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I mean, you're coming into the semifinal in the 3rd position in the West.
Yeah.
That's the highest you've ever entered semis. Does that give you any confidence, or do you just meh?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we all know it doesn't matter. You could come in the last heat and make the games. But yeah, it does give you a bit of confidence. And I think just this whole year of training, Kyle switched around a few things, and I think it's really, yeah, I've really benefited from it. And it's been a hard year of training, but a really good year.
And you yourself feel better now than you have in past years?
Oh yeah. Fitness wise and strength wise. And like I say, like we've tried a couple different things this year, and I think they're really paying off. And yeah, injury wise too. I mean, last year at this time, I was still dealing with that calf that was just, hampering me. And, knock on wood, going into semis, I'm feeling really good.
Yeah, we talked to Scott Tetlow yesterday, and he actually backed off volume this year. And it's the first time, he said it's the first time he's going into semis with a clean bill of health right now.
Yeah, it's shocking at this level that to not have something that's nagging.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not to say I haven't had injuries throughout the year. Like, I had a bad shoulder injury right after Wodapalooza, and that took a while to clear up. Even going into the Open, I wasn't great. But yeah, it's good now. So feeling good.
Noticing a trend with Wodapalooza and injury.
Yeah.
Maybe that's one you should take off the list.
But it's so fun. That was so fun. And then we go for a cruise after. It's just such a good trip.
So I want to get into both of those things. We've talked about it in the past about doing every one of the big 3 in the off season. You're one of the few people that have done that in the past. You, at one time we talked, and you said you're not sure you're ever going to do that again. And then this year you do it again.
Yeah, I think this year was the only year that I did all 3. Rogue, Dubai.
I would argue 2 years ago you did all 3.
Did I? Jeez. Yeah, not the plan this year.
Okay.
I'll pick and choose.
Well, now I know why you did it again, because you forgot you did it 2 years ago.
I did forget. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we had a conversation about it, and you said, I'm not doing that again. And then here we are 2 years later, and you did it again.
Wow. Okay. Well, I won't do it again now.
So you have a perspective of hitting all 3. What do each one have that the other ones don't, that make it worth going to?
I think, like I said, Wodapalooza is just super fun. It's probably like the most chill, the most like party kind of atmosphere. And it's warm in Florida in January. It's a great time to leave Canada. Yeah, that one's just all about more fun, I would say. And then Rogue is just great because it's such high level. It's always the top people from the games. For me, it's a really good challenge because usually it's quite heavy and like more strongman kind of stuff. And And they also treat the athletes great. Like they pay our way, they put us up. Yeah, we're really treated really well at Rogue. So that's a special experience. And then Dubai is just cool. It's Dubai. Like Dubai is so cool. Such a cool city to be. And again, it's warm in December.
Yeah.
And it's just cool. Like there's no other opportunity probably that I would go to Dubai. So yeah, it's a good opportunity also.
So you seem to piggyback vacations or holidays with these competitions. And I've seen on your Instagram, you did a cruise after Wadapalooza. Did you do anything after the other events?
So Dubai, last year we went to Germany on our way back. This year we had to come straight home because we had to go to work. And then after Rogue, we also did a cruise. So yeah, we had a riot. We had a blast on that cruise. And I think it's just one, we work full-time jobs. So if we have the vacation off to go there anyways, we just tack on a few extra days. That works out. And then I take the week off after I compete anyways. So it's fun to just travel and just not be sitting at home for that week.
So I've never been on a cruise. You did too last year. When you went to Rogue, did you go somewhere did you do a cruise out of Texas or did you go somewhere else first?
No, we flew back to LA, which was almost, halfway home, and then went out to LA. It was actually, we booked that cruise after the games and we actually missed it because we missed our flight. So we, thank goodness for American Express, we got our refund and then booked it after Rogue.
Cool. So where did the two cruises go?
That one was like LA, Mexico, Catalina Island, just around there. And then the one after Wadapalooza is to Bahamas and back.
Okay.
And the private island and stuff. Yeah, super fun.
Awesome. And do you need that after competitions to just kind of rejuvenate?
Yeah, I mean, I don't need I'll say I need it. I don't need it, but I like it. It's just nice to have some downtime, especially because Kyle and I are going through everything together. He's my coach as well as my husband. So it's nice for us to just chill out.
Yeah. Still my favorite story is when you guys had an interaction as coach athlete and he was writing the apology as husband while you were on the competition floor.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like that.
Yeah. Wad Zombie jumps in with, are you excited to have GoRuck sponsoring the games?
Yeah, of course. So when I signed with them was last year, around this time, maybe a bit earlier. I had no idea. I don't know if it was in the works then or whatever, but I had no idea that they were going to be sponsoring the games. So when that happened, I was like, oh, cool. It's like, not like it's the brand that's going forward, but it's like kind of cool to be a part of that.
Did you have a talk with their newest athlete that this is your house?
I did not yet. But yeah, I'm the OG. Nah, it's super cool. I mean, of course, Tia brings so much to the table. So yeah, it's cool that like their two athletes are me and her.
Yeah, but does she have to always go with the sponsor of the games?
Apparently, she does.
Man, give other people some dude, man. Now, I think that's really cool. And you've talked about how cool they are with you and that you've actually had input into the design of some of the shoes and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're super receptive. So like when their first trainer came out, there's a couple of things that I really didn't like about it. Like my heel was slipping out. And so I told them that and they fixed it right away. And now their trainer's like amazing. So their runners are great too. So hopefully we can do the same with their clothing.
How many pairs do you have?
Too many.
Good answer.
The closet is full.
Yeah. And was last year at semis the first time you got to like sport them?
Yeah.
So it's been a year.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've seen their clothes, like they've always been like a major part at Rogue. And the one year I volunteered down there, I sat right outside their booth. Their stuff is really cool, really well made.
Yeah, their stuff, I like it because it's kind of like, I don't know how to say, like kind of grindy, kind of like military, like hard ass, like that kind of stuff, which is really good. I think they're going to continue working on the woman's line. And I think because a lot of girls, they like color and they don't want to be like dark all the time. And that was one of the main things last year. I was like, okay, like you got to have pink. You got to have some pink somewhere. So then they came out with that like bright pink backpack, which Kyle was sporting throughout the games, which was great. I love it.
Yeah, we captured that in some of our footage and stuff from the
Couldn't
game.
miss him.
Yeah, he was easy to find.
Yeah.
Yeah. Greg Pasley says, GoRuck makes an excellent product. Several people, Wad Zombie, Emily is my favorite.
Oh.
Barry, Emily is my favorite too. So yeah, lots of people cheering you on in the chat. So now you have it seemed a much shorter time from quarterfinals to semis. Does training have to change this year? Does Kyle have to like actually, you can't use the template from last year because it's just different timing?
Yeah, I mean, we're just continuing how we're going because I felt great going into quarterfinals. Quarterfinals went fine, went well. We're just continuing what we're doing because it works and I feel good. So I'm actually pleased semifinals are closer. Like I don't need another 2 months of training before semifinals. Like I want to go.
And we talked about like when I said how you feel, you said you've changed some things and your fitness is high as well as your strength.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a well-known fact. Your whole has always been strength.
Right.
How much time do you spend on improving that?
A lot. Like that's like my top energy. And you'll ask any athlete, like your weakness, that's what you have to work on, right? Like I don't go for runs ever. Like I never run. My last big run was, I guess, Rogue, and then the 5K at the games. And my next big run will probably be if we run at the games. Like I don't run. So yeah, I think a lot of strength, a lot of like power output kind of things we've been doing this year, which really seem to have helped. And I think like it shows that workout 4 on the quarterfinals, like I'm closing that gap slowly, that's all I can ask for. So that's encouraging.
And mentally, when you're looking at that, like you're never going to lift like Danny Spiegel.
No.
Right. You're just trying to get to a point where it doesn't hurt you on the weekend.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, like we're just trying to close that gap.
Yeah. It's funny because like a few years ago, I go to Christy Aramo O'Connell's gym and I watched her, like that was all she did. Yeah. Like strength cycle after strength cycle after strengths. And she was just trying to get to mid pack.
Yeah.
Like that was it. Is that the same approach that you're taking?
Yeah. And I think, yeah, pretty much. Like I say, we've been doing a lot of like power things. Strength wise, I'm not terrible. It's more the power output, which we've really been focusing on. And that seems to help not only in that area, but in other areas in CrossFit too. So it's good.
So I'm going to pull something up. At Rogue, you seem to be working on the strength or something in that manner. This made me just howl because it seems so out of character for you. But your little promo video.
Yeah. Forgot about that.
It just seems so out of character for you. And I just laughed and I had to bring it up somehow through this.
It's a pretty good double bicep flex though.
It definitely is. And it shows that you've been working on some strength for sure.
Yeah. And I think especially after my arm injury, like I had to rebuild all that up. And at the time it wasn't fun, but now I'm like reaping the rewards from that. Like I'm way stronger than I was before. Just focusing on those little things. So that's fun too. But yeah, that at Rogue, you're like in a green room and they're like, hey, do something. And you're like, And if you don't have a plan or like remember what you think you were going to do, like you just kind of, I don't know, throw up the peace sign or do a flex.
The flex looks awesome. And the way they slow-moed it, like it made it even cooler. And that's Rogue is so awesome at that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. They're very professional with
They
all
always
their
make the athletes look good. So when you do that when you do all those off-season competitions, how much of that is a learning process and an experiment process?
Oh, a ton. That's kind of when the time is to do it, because you don't really want to be experimenting when you're trying to make the games. And obviously you train all year to peak at the games. So that's like, unfortunately you do experience a lot and experiment a lot at the games. But yeah, the off season is when you want to try new things and see what's been working and see what hasn't. And yeah, all that kind of stuff. And I learn a ton every time. Like there's always so many things to take away that we put back into training. So that in that way, it's really beneficial.
So for you, like Rogue is important because that is experiencing and experimenting with things that you're working on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That makes total sense. And they have the best swag bag in the business.
Yeah. I still wear my cowboy boots that we got a few years ago.
It's so cool, funny because either people love that or they're like, yeah, I gave that away as soon as I got home.
Oh, heck no. I went to a country concert like 2 weeks ago and rocked them. It was great. Like,
and that's where I was actually stationed because GoRuck was there. The fitting for the hat and the boots and all that stuff was kind of in that one corner. And I watched everybody come in and get fitted, and it was so funny.
Oh, I bet.
Like, and then I worked media for the weekend for Rogue, just trying to learn stuff. But for that day, I was stationed in there, and it was really, really cool.
Yeah, I bet.
So, and then we talk about, I have a question about Dubai. I watch it on TV or stream, and it looks like there's nobody in the crowd.
Yeah.
Is there nobody there, or is it just bad camera angles?
So a bit of both. So they do condense the crowd to like the end of the finish line. Like think if you're watching a hockey game, like where the goal, like that area. So there's that. And then there's also like the stadium, they do it. It's pretty big. And you're right. Like the crowd isn't there like in the US, not at all. And I think mostly because it's so far. Like people, yeah, it's far and it's expensive to get there. So,
and it's CrossFit isn't as big in the Middle East, or
no,
okay,
not for girls, anyways. I think there's a lot more men that do it, but not women.
Okay, is there ever an uncomfortable feeling?
Oh yeah,
a woman that okay.
Oh yeah. So it wasn't this year; it was the year before we went, and our luggage got lost for like 4 days. So Kyle and I had no clothes. Like all I had was one pair of workout gear that I put in my carry-on. So I was just hand washing that for a couple days till we got some stuff. But and I remember we were walking home from one of the gyms that I was training at, just like on the road. And of course I'm in my workout gear. And yeah, you get a lot of stares. I mean, they're not used to seeing women, I guess you could say like scantily clad, like in shorts and a tank top. Like they're not used to seeing that, right? So,
right.
Of course, people are going to stare.
They're mostly covered there, right? Like,
oh yeah, yeah.
That just seems odd to me, but I know that that's the culture and that's just the way it is. But so then Wodapalooza, I've always called that the CrossFit family reunion.
Yeah.
Because it's just everybody who's in the space is there that weekend, hanging out, chatting. How hard is it to actually then go compete with kind of all of that going on? Or are you really good about putting your blinders on and just doing what you're there for?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, I've heard from people like that's the most fun crowd to be at, like more fun than the games. People just love Wodapalooza. But yeah, for me, it's not hard to focus. Like when I'm competing, I'm competing. And I've been lucky the schedule, like usually it's 2-day indie, 2-day team. And this year I only did indie. So I compete 2 days and then I have 2 days to just hang out with people and do what I want after. So
Do you have sponsor obligations during that time or?
sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a few events lined up this year, but yeah, makes it fun.
Because I think there's more sponsors at Wadapalooza than there are at the games.
Yeah.
And I know, like, I've talked to some athletes where they're busy on their off day as much, if not more, than when they're competing.
Oh
Because
yeah.
the
Like
sponsors
some
are,
people just couldn't do teams because they had like meet and greets lined up all day. And it was like,
it's insane. If they could just fix the weather.
I know the rain, like, man, it's so hit and miss with it's either super nice or it's torrential rain.
Yeah. 2 years ago, it was freezing cold.
Was it?
Well, not for Indy. By the time the weekend came for teams, like it was, I didn't have a jacket because, coming from the north to Miami, you're like, I don't need that. And then it
Yeah.
got down to 40, like,
Oof.
what's that, like 10 Celsius for you?
Yeah, that's cold.
Yeah. It was really, really cold. But you
Yeah.
had injured your calf and like withdrawn from the team. So I don't know if you were.
Oh, it was that year. Okay. Yeah, I was still around. Limping around.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if they could just fix the weather, that would be epic every year.
Yeah.
So now you're going to semis at one of the most iconic locations in CrossFit history. You never got to compete at the games in California. So how excited are you to compete at the tennis stadium where CrossFit was kind of birthed?
Yeah. When I saw that it was going to be in Carson at the tennis stadium, when did they announce that? Like way back in November or something. I was stoked. I was like, man, this is going to be so cool. Like as you say, I think the last games there were maybe 2016. I don't know.
Exactly.
I was barely into CrossFit then. I didn't make regionals till 2017. So didn't really watch. I remember it playing on the TV at the global gym I was going to. And I remember like looking a bit, but like wasn't even like in it by then. And then looking back, I see all this stuff and I'm like, wow, like, yeah, I'm super excited. It's gonna be so cool. I love competing outside. I love that added element. So that's really cool too.
So you said when you started CrossFit, you weren't really watching it.
No.
How fast did it take you to dive into all of the stuff?
Very quick. As they say, I drank the Kool-Aid. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing it on TV. Someone at the gym was like, oh, you should do that. I was like, no. Whatever, ignored it. And then, once I actually did a class or two, I was like, well, I'm in it.
Yeah, I started in CrossFit in 2011, had no clue what the games were. And then the games came around in 2012, I was hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. I think most people are like that. Like you just it's so addicting to like keep getting better, keep learning new skills. It's just super fun.
And imagine when you first started in a class, every day is a competition, right? You're new to it. You're competing with the class. You're trying to do as well as everybody else.
Right. And then coming in from like a background of gymnastics, track and field, like I knew how to weight lift. Like it was just, everyone likes doing things they're good at. Right. So you come in, you're already pretty good. People are like, oh, it's like the Open next month. Like, okay, sign me up, I guess.
For me, it was trying to master new skills. Like, even though like some of the stuff I was okay at, I started at 500 pounds, so it was a different story than you, but learning how to master those skills over time is what kept bringing me back. I was a competitive swimmer in high school and college, and to get that competitive spirit back was everything to me.
Yeah, I was the same. Like it felt like I was back in gymnastics competing. So I can't imagine coming in fresh though, without any weightlifting background or like never having done gymnastics. Like the people that come in from that, that's pretty impressive. Like that must be so overwhelming to learn all that. Like I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So I mean, I did have some lifting background. It was more powerlifting than
Okay.
Olympic lifting. And I was very athletic as a kid. I had a sport in every season, and I actually flirted with gymnastic stuff just for fun,
Okay.
like doing flips and stuff. Um, so some of that muscle memory came back.
Right.
But I ask you, then you go to becoming a pro athlete, and a lot of times you're working out by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So are you addicted to competition? And is that one of the reasons you keep signing up for Rogue, Dubai, Wadapalooza?
I never really thought about that, to be honest. That's a thought. I don't think I love competing, obviously. And yeah, like most days I'm down grinding in my dark garage alone. Like that's no fun. um, but I was thinking the other day, like it makes you train so hard. If you can push yourself through it, you train so hard because Kyle's making these interval split times and these goal times and goal reps and like things that I need to hit in the workouts. And I'm just killing myself to make those times. And I think if I had someone beside me, I would be a lot more, oh, just stay ahead of them or just race them. And you kind of don't go to your full potential. Whereas when I'm racing the machine, what it says on the Concept 2 machine, or I'm racing the clock, like there's no, you know what I mean? Like you just push so much harder. So I feel like if you can put your head down and be like, yeah, it's not as fun because I'm not laughing and joking with someone and, but if you can push through that, like, I think training's actually better.
So I can relate to that because in swimming, everything's intervals,
Yeah.
right? Like everything. And you're not swimming against one-on-one against anybody. There's like 6 people in a lane trying to keep that same interval going, right?
Right.
And so it's not a competition. Then when the meet comes, like, then I'm in a zone because like now I get to release all that competitiveness in that meet. And so
Yeah.
I'm just curious if that was the same for you, like with Wadapalooza. And
Yeah, I guess in a way it's way more fun to there's 10 other girls, now we get to race. Like that's way more fun than trying to hit these times that Kyle set out for me that are really tough. So, yeah, I guess so a little bit.
and your fun, we've talked about this before, is you're like one of the nicest people ever when you're just kind of hanging out. Coming off the competition floor, you give this look like I'm going to freaking kill you.
Coming off or going on?
Probably both. I just don't have access to coming on.
Okay, that looks worse.
and I interview a lot of people after events. Very few of them scare me like you do.
Sorry. I wasn't aware of that, Scott. I'll work on that.
I mean, I pushed through. I pushed through for the interview, but man, it's hard for me to remember the questions because you give the death stare.
Yeah, I guess just in the zone.
And I can't imagine Kyle like getting on the wrong side of you.
Yeah. You should ask him.
Jake Chapman asks, is Emily coming to Rogue?
I would love to. We'll see. Usually they do invites after the game. So
yeah.
Come in the top 10, 15 of the games, usually have a pretty good shot. Unless they decide to do it differently this year. I don't know. But Scotland's pretty cool.
Yeah, so Jake's in Europe. So that's what he's asking. They're excited that Rogue is coming there. Wad Zombie asks, will Kyle be in Carson?
Of course he will be. Of course he will be.
Pink backpack?
He would pink backpack and all, yeah. You can only buy him one beer though, because I don't know if we told you the story. There was a competition here called Can West Games, and he coached me, but it was like a hot weekend. It was super hot. There was a beer garden at the competition. And you know how you have a lot of time in between events, whatever. He would just disappear. And, you know, we had friends there and whatever. And then he'd come back and I didn't really think anything of it. And then I realized he was just hammered. And when he was coaching me, and I was like, what is wrong with him? And yeah, never again. But I won the competition. So that's his saving grace. He's like, oh, I still coached you to the W. Like, but yeah, not again.
That sounds like a fun time with Kyle.
Kyle's always a fun time.
Wad Zombie says Can West was the one with the big prize money, right?
Yeah, the one that fell through. But this was before it fell through. So this was like 2017 or something. 2018, I think. Yeah.
It was actually around for a long time before the big fiasco.
It was, and it was a great competition. I mean, when I won, the prize money was $3,000, so it was a lot less than what they promised a few years ago. But yeah, it was really a good competition when it was going there for a few years.
Wad Zombie said he's a big dude. He can do 2 beers. And then Jake says, isn't he English or a posh Canadian? Depending if you ask him McQuaid.
Yeah, he is from the UK. So yeah, I know you guys can put away alcohol like no other.
Yeah. So, wow, that got us derailed. So I wanted to ask you this too about quarterfinals. With the reduction in from 60 to 40, did that enter your mind at all, or was it just I'm good enough, I don't have to worry about that?
Yeah, it was, I'm going to make it through. Wasn't worried. I actually like that they cut people. Sounds savage, but yeah, I would rather they cut it to 30, to be honest. But yeah, so when that was announced, I was like, sweet, that's good. I would say the only concern was just like, I remember saying to Kyle, okay, like we can't afford, you know, a large penalty or, you know, screwing up my video, or like, we just have to make sure we're doing everything the way it's meant to be done. Just like take care in the small things.
So when we went up to 60 a couple of years ago, the thought was, boy, it's going to be tough because if you do really bad in one event, a 60 place finish would be hard to come back from.
Yeah. I mean, we saw Sydney do it. So
we did. That last year was such a weird programmed year. It had all these like traps that people couldn't get past.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people had bad scores.
Yeah. There was a lot, like, if you look at the people who made the games, there were very few consistent all the way through people. Like, people were like bouncing all the way around in the events. So yeah, who knows what this year will bring.
So is the 40, are you excited about the 40 because it kind of has a safetiness to it where, well, you can't fall too far?
I think just it takes away some of the outliers. You know, the people that can make it because they're really good at one thing, but they can't do other things. Or, you know, like 40 to 60, a lot of those people, you know, they're just super strong, but they're not fit at all. Or, you know, they have other good things. And I think it just, they kind of, I don't want to say get in the way, but they can kind of skew the leaderboard in some events. So yeah, it's just good to get rid of that.
Yeah. I like what you're saying. I hate that we don't get to know more athletes. I think.
Yeah. So as an athlete that competes, I don't want to say I don't care, but like, that's my thought on it. But I understand, like, you know, those athletes that are just over the 40, you know, what do they have? They're so close to semifinals, but they just can't get out of the virtual, like the online, you know. So like for that, you know, really 40 to 100, like they're still good athletes. It's just tough to make semifinals. So, you know, it would be cool if they had like a tier, you know, semifinal 1, semifinal 2 or something like that would be cool. So they can just, because people, you know, so many people thrive competing live and aren't good online, or the opposite, you know. So it'd be nice to give those athletes an opportunity.
Yeah. I've been, you know, I was on Coffee Pods and Wads yesterday for their game show. And one of the things is, how do we attract more people to North America semis? And I was thinking, like, wouldn't it be cool to have like an event right before the event? Like the 20 that didn't make it in, you get like these 3 workouts, and whoever wins it gets a wild card into semis. Or
That'd be fun.
just something to like bring more people there, and something dramatic to do right before the event.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I mean, they have the event there. I mean, okay, so they have to set up an extra day early or something, but they have everything there. It's already, all the equipment's there. Like, you know, the people are there. It's easy to add on, really.
You don't have to stream it. You just let people come watch, set it up in the plaza or the parking lot, you know, whatever. And they get in, but they're kind of at a disadvantage because they just did 3 workouts, but they get a shot.
Yeah, cool. I like it.
Just something I've been like flipping around in my head since the game show yesterday. So, the other thing that the reduction 40 does is, if you guys get 10 in again this year, 25% of the field go to the games.
Yeah, that's high. I mean, I don't know if we're getting 10 this year, but
right,
probably a bit less. But yeah, that's a big chance you get, really, when you only had to pass the online portion. I get what you're saying there.
Yeah. I like the old regional format where like 3 or 5 got in, and it was just your region.
But it was 40 went, right? 40 people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was
direct. So the last few years, like, you know, I went to sanctionals, and I think there were 30, and I won, and I made the games. And then the online games, I was top 5 out of, I think, 40. And then 2022, I was top 5 out of 30 again. Last year, I was top 10 out of 60. Like, I feel like every year that I've qualified, it's been a different scenario.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that gives me confidence. It's like, okay, whatever it was, like, I somehow jumped through the hoops.
Yeah.
And got it done. So it's,
you file a heart attack as well as your fans.
Yeah.
But you always make it in.
Standard.
So, so what are you most looking forward to in Carson? Just like, I thought the programming for quarters was really good.
I did too.
And if
the semis is also good like that. Like, yeah, there was strength and skill, but it was like fitness.
Yes.
It's like why we all love CrossFit. Yeah.
Do you think they'll continue that on for semis?
I think somewhat. I mean, there's going to be change. It's going to be heavier. It's going to be harder skill, I'm sure. But I mean, you never know. I never try to predict what there's going to be. Like, I don't want to say that's Kyle's job, but it's kind of his thing to like make sure I'm kind of ready for everything come game time. And yeah, whatever it is, you got to go out and do it anyways. So
yeah. So I'm gonna finish with like 2 off questions, and that is, this has really been the year for women in sports. If you're following other women's sports, the women's NCAA tournament outrated the men's NCAA tournament for the first time in history. If you look at college NIL in the States, women are in the top 10 in NIL money with the men. How does it feel to be part of a sport that's always looked at women as equal?
When you say it, it's like, wow, that's super cool. Like, but yeah, I mean, we're used to it because it's always been that way. So you never really think anything else. But yeah, you look at, I mean, basketball is huge right now with Caitlin Clark, but like, yeah, you look at what they're getting paid versus the men. And then I would say CrossFit's almost the opposite. Like, I remember my mom was telling me she was watching one of the comps just streamed, and, you know, they had the top 10 girls and the top 10 guys on the same floor competing together. And it was mostly watching the girls. And she was like, I wanted to see Pat. And it barely even showed Pat because it was all girls. And yeah, we're in sports bras and booty shorts, and maybe that sells a little bit, but I think we're almost the opposite. Like, people watch the girls more than the guys.
I agree completely, because, and it's, to me, like, for the most part, the women are more approachable when I go to like talk to them or do a podcast.
That me.
The men aren't as approachable. It's harder to get them on the show. And so my leaning is because I get to know you guys more than I get to know the men.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to watch, because all the people I've gotten to know over the years are women.
Right.
And not all. I mean, there are exceptions, but
yeah, it makes sense. If you know a person, you know their story, you know what they've gone through. Like, you're way more, as a fan, you're way more invested in that person.
Yeah. And so I just think it's cool. And I think it's this tide that's coming where women are doing as well as men in different things. And I think it's cool in college here in the States, name, image, likeness money, women are doing as well as the men.
Yeah. And I think that's partly in thanks to social media too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool.
So the last question I'm going to have for you is, again, Carolyn Prevost joined us on our Thursday night show. She takes a lot of pride in the fact that she's an athlete who's also a full-time employed worker.
Right.
You are as well.
Mm-hmm.
How much pride do you have that you're doing all of these amazing things and you're working a full-time job?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. And a lot of people, you know, I do get a lot of credit for it. Like, people are always saying, and people forget, like, Carolyn does it too. I don't think she gets quite the hype that I get about it, but she's also doing it. She's working she's a teacher, right? Full-time. Yep. That's full-time. Yeah. So again, I honestly think, you know, aside from some nights and, you know, I honestly think it helps my training. Like, I wouldn't be, you know, as soon as I wake up, like going to the garage, doing a hard interval session. Like, if I didn't work that day, I wouldn't need to do that session and then get to the gym at a certain time. And like, you know, I would waste so much more time. And I think it's just human. It's natural for humans. Like, the more time you have, the more time you waste. And so as a result, my training's more productive. Like, it's more intense, and that's helping me as an athlete. So honestly, my job helps me.
It's funny. Scott Tetlow said the same thing yesterday, because he's active military.
Okay.
And so he has 90 minutes a day to get his work in. Right. And so he goes and he does that. And then if for some reason he gets a break, that's when he works on like his holes.
Wow. So that's a lot less time than I have. So I have definitely a lot more training time than that, but good for him.
He said that if he had more time, he doesn't think he'd be as efficient.
No, you're not. Because, like, you know, you finish a workout, you're tired, you take a drink, you go on your phone for a bit, you know, you talk to other people, like, you can waste so much time. But I'm like, okay, no, at 2:00, I need to be in the shower. So this piece takes 20 minutes. Like, everything's mapped out to the T.
Well, and at a competition, you don't get to choose when you work out or when you cool down.
And I've done a few competitions, specifically the games last year when we had to have that condensed schedule for ESPN, or ESPN, the TV, whatever it was called. And people were hurting. Like, not to say I was just like, oh, I'm fine, but, you know, I was used to it. I was like, okay, this is how I train every day. Like, I don't need a long 5-hour break in between. And like, it's good to just like prepare for that.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. And I think Carolyn's the same way. Like, her lunch hour is one of her sessions. And then like, she doesn't get to choose when it is. It's when her schedule opens up. Right. And it just makes you more flexible during competition time. And I think it's a byproduct of being a full-time employee.
It is. And like, I notice that on my days off, you know, sometimes I spend the whole day at the gym, but you know, I was half as productive as I was on my work day. You know, it's just like,
when you go to the gym and you work out in your garage,
Yeah.
What does the gym give you that the garage doesn't?
Just high ceiling things, rope climbs, muscle ups. You know, I can do the little seated muscle ups here, but bar muscle ups I can't do here. I'll smoke my head on the roof. Just stuff like that. And then just, it's a good change of scenery. So I'll do one session here, and you know, there's other people. We have our gym's like half boxing gym. So there's a bunch of people fighting in the back and yelling, and you know, it's just like it's something different.
Wow, we had one of those in Columbus and it closed.
Okay.
It was half boxing, half CrossFit. Now it's just CrossFit, and they moved out of that building, but that would be insane. Do you miss the gym if you can't get in there and you just have to do garage, or vice versa?
No, because the next day I'll be at the gym. Like
Okay.
I'm still at the gym 5 days a week. The month after the games, like I don't think I went to the gym all of August last year, and then all of August the year before when I had my arm injury. So a little bit then, and I think that's just the people. Like you miss just being social. That's just social aspect.
Do you ever miss the parking garage?
No, but sometimes I'll say to Kyle, I'm like, man, I was so hard. Like, I remember that bar used to be ice cold some days, and I would have to wear like, I'd put on gloves and be squatting with like gloves on because the bar was so cold, and like going outside before my night shift into the, like, man, I was so tough.
You've softened up over the years?
Well, now, yeah, I mean, the garage is in winter. It's still not warm, but then I think of that and comparatively, and I'm like, oh, I have a light here. I don't have cars driving by. Like, I'm not half outside. Like, it's pretty good.
Sucking in the exhaust fumes.
Yeah, sucking in the fumes. Wind coming in.
You finally got all that cleared out of your system, and that's why you're improving every year now.
Yeah. It's like smoker's lung. I got rid of it.
Oh, no. Yeah. Wad Zombie says, I imagine Canada just always being ice cold.
That's what, yeah, we live in igloos pretty much. I mean,
fish for salmon and
yeah, hunting and gather. It's the hunting and gather lifestyle here.
yeah. Well, Emily, as always, it's been awesome having you on. Can't wait to, hopefully I can get to Carson. Still,
Nice.
They have not approved media yet, so I have no idea like what's going on.
Okay.
So
well, fingers crossed for you.
Yeah. Hopefully I can get out there. But I heard you told me via DM that you had already made your plans, assuming you were going to make it. Because you were that confident.
Yeah, Kyle booked my flight. He was going to book it like way before, but I was like, just wait. And then, yeah, as soon as I finished quarterfinals, he just booked it. And then, like I say, and then all the penalties came out, and I was like, but yeah.
Well, you've learned that you have American Express, and like if you need to refund.
Yeah, they're awesome with that. So
there you go. Well, thank you to everybody in the chat for being here. Thank you to Emily, as always, for just being a great friend and always coming on the show. We love you all, and we'll see everybody next time on the Clydesdale Media Semifinalist Series. Bye, guys.